Ryan. Yes.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast. We just had a crazy week of college football. Lots of upsets, lots of close games. Obviously, we're going to start with Alabama, Texas. A game that was a lot closer than most people thought, us included. I just thought Alabama was going to come out with a lot more energy in what they did. They struggled to move the ball in the first 3 quarters. And Knox, you watched most of the game, if not all of it. What was probably the biggest struggle that Alabama had? Or what were some uncharacteristic things that Alabama did that really kept this closer than it should have been?
So this has been a trend since last year. I mean, I don't know if it's the way they recruit now, their offense, or it's the way they practice, or they're just not running the ball. They're not drilling that in practice, but they just have not been able to run the ball particularly efficiently over the past couple of years. I mean, you got Bryce Young, who's great, and then you had Jamison Williams, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, like all these Mechie, all these unbelievable receivers come play for them. So it's like their whole identity is shifted away from running the ball, where the identity of college football in general, it seems now, is coming back towards running the ball. Like most teams you're seeing have success in 2022 have been able to run the ball efficiently. Your Georgias, your Arkansas, your teams like that. So I mean, but Bama won the game at the end of the day. I mean, they showed their experience, and Bryce Young showed his Heisman potential out on that last drive. I mean, he was almost corralled in and sacked, and then ended up breaking, what was it, like a 15, 20-yard run he had at the end of that drive. Even in those close games, it's hard to beat a distinguished program like Bama.
So let me ask y'all this. Do y'all think that this game was closer, more of Texas being much improved, or do you think it was an energy issue from Alabama? Do you think Alabama just didn't take Texas as serious as they should have? What's y'all's opinions on that?
I think it's a combination of both, but mostly I think it just shows Texas's improvement. Sarkisian getting his guys in there. I mean, there was a lot of talent on this Texas team, and we knew that coming in, but how are they going to be able to use this talent? I mean, we saw Texas A&M, they got a whole bunch of talent too, but it's about what can you do with it. And, Texas came out and proved that they can hang with these, Alabamas and the Georgias. They're obviously not there yet. They got a decent ways to go still, but they definitely have the potential to get there. I thought that Texas on defense did a great job of sending pressure, and where they sent the pressure from, it was causing the Alabama front fits. And, Drew, you say this often, Bryce Young, when he gets pressured, a lot of the times he makes some mistakes. And, you can obviously tell that he does not like getting pressured at all. And so I thought Texas was able to do a great job of just not letting Bryce Young get in his comfort zone. And that definitely attributed to his struggles, or the offensive struggles, in the first 3 quarters. But speaking on Alabama and their mistakes, it is absolutely unheard of for a Nick Saban coach team to have that many penalties. I mean, it was an issue in the first or second quarter. I was telling both y'all, like, this Alabama team had some penalties early. This is going to be an issue. And it only got worse and worse throughout the game. So I think it was a mixture of both. Nick Saban is not going to let his boys come out like that again this season. Next game, I'm hammering Bama to cover plus 10 points. Nick Saban isn't coming to play around. So I think it was a mix of both. I like what I saw from the Texas team. They definitely surprised me. Ewers, I thought he came in and, what a game. Or, this is one of his first games, definitely his first big game that he's been in. And, what a game to step up. And, he played well up until his injury. And, I hope the best for him. I hope it's nothing too serious, because I think him and Texas both got a bright future.
Yeah, and Texas played a really good game. I think they did everything they could have. They had a great game plan, like you just mentioned. They dialed up a lot of pressure on Bryce Young. The only problem that Texas had in this game is when you have the opportunities to put away Bama, you have to find ways to do it. You had the missed field goal towards the end of the first half, a 24, 25-yard field goal. I don't really know what happened there. I mean, the snap wasn't great, the hold wasn't great, but I mean, as a Division I kicker, you got to be able to make those 24, 25-yard field goals. That alone was such a momentum changer, and obviously proved towards the end that was a much-needed field goal. Obviously, if Texas had that field goal, they win the game 22-20. And I'm not saying that's what would have been the case. Anything else could have happened after that. I mean, you just don't know. And then Texas really did get screwed on that roughing the passer called when they sacked Bryce Young in the end zone for a safety. And I don't know how you can call roughing the passer on that. They hit him, and Bryce Young wasn't even down yet. He was on top of the Texas defensive lineman, and then a couple of Texas players just came in to kind of finish him off and put him on the ground. If anything, Bryce Young just kind of slung it out to nowhere. It should have been intentional grounding, which was in the end zone, which should have been a safety anyways. So that alone, I mean, obviously that's going to be a talked about topic, but, you know.
Let me say something about that.
All right. That's
absolutely horse shit. And if they're going to be making it so easy on the offense to score points these days, and they're hindering the defense with all these targeting calls and shit, and they're reviewing everything these days anyways. I mean, were reviewing PI in the NFL like 1 or 2 years ago. So you have to have a guy in the booth. You have to have a ref that says, no, we have to look at that, because that's ruining the integrity of the sport. I mean, I'm being completely honest. And I'm also going to talk about targeting calls too, because in the Arkansas game and also the Alabama game, there was instances where the offensive player is lowering the crown of his helmet to initiate contact, and the defender responds or has his head up and makes contact with the crown of the offensive player's helmet, and they never call it against the offensive player. And I don't know if this was the Alabama game or not, but I think it was the Alabama running back did that exact thing, led with the crown of his helmet and screwed his neck up. You got to start calling this on the offense too. I mean, we got to be able to review these questionable calls that are obvious to the 100,000 people in the crowd and the millions of people watching. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. That changed the tide of the whole freaking game, and it's just this soft, runny baby shit calls that they're calling against the defense and giving to the offense that's ruining this game. I'm a defensive-minded player. I like to run the football if I'm an offensive coach. I hate to see these 40, 50, 60-point games and Tennessee just throwing 60-yard bombs. Like, it's not – I don't know. It's just not the game that we grew up playing. Like, bring back the hits. Like, reward players for playing physical and running to the football. What they're doing now is absolutely bullshit.
Yeah, and
sorry.
And I'll say this real quick and I'll let you go, Knox. This week and this season alone, I don't think I've seen any more targeting penalties and roughing the passer penalties that get overturned. Well, obviously the roughing the passers don't get overturned, but they're calling these targeting penalties way more, even in previous seasons. And I feel like they've modified it a little bit in terms of when they go and look at the replay, whether or not they determine if they're going to eject the player or not. But they got to start taking into account these players lowering their helmets. Well, you can go ahead, Knox. I know I cut you off.
Yeah, you're good, man. But look, I'm all about protecting the player. I think targeting as a penalty is a good idea. I don't think you should have people just in these high-speed collisions just leading with their head. But Aiden, your point about the offense player is totally right. This happens all the time. It happens at every level. Running backs that are going through the middle, I mean, they're just going to lower their head because that makes most optimal sense when you're thinking about leverage and you're getting more yards. They all do it, and it's taught to them to do it.
Yeah.
But there's no consequences for it. Just like it was taught to defensive players to just hit the guy coming across, and you got to hit him. That was taught to them, and then the rules came along, and now tackling itself is changing. So if you can put in a rule for these offensive players, the way they run the ball will change. They'll lower their shoulder instead or do whatever. And also, you got to think, this in college football, it's been so archaic. It's like I don't understand why they can't come together and come up with some cohesive rules. It wasn't until a couple of years ago where you could call targeting, and then they could review it. And if they found that it was not targeting, the player wouldn't get ejected, but they still would get the 15 yards. Like, they just changed that. And why can't you do like the NFL and do the same thing with pass interference penalties? Because these penalties can seriously change the course of an entire game. Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time, especially in these close games, like all these ones we had last week or yesterday, rather. I don't understand what's so complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been on, the idea of them having a level 1 and a level 2 targeting penalty, because there are some cases where, yes, there is targeting, there is helmet-to-helmet contact where their defensive player lowers his head, makes contact with the offensive player, but that doesn't deserve an ejection in my opinion. I understand if you want to eject a player if he's blatantly jumping off his feet, going head first, right into the side of an opposing player's helmet. That would deserve a 15-yard penalty and an ejection. But that would have to be so blatant. You can't throw out. I mean, football at this level is played so fast. The game speed is so fast. You don't have time to always react and put your head in the right position and make sure you're hitting the offensive player in the right spot. That's just so unrealistic. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And here, this is just the last thing I'll say about it. I agree with both of you. Like, Drew, there definitely needs to be, in my opinion, like a targeting 1 and a targeting 2. Like, if it's obviously intentional, kick the guy out. But the game's played too fast. You got too much going on. You know, a lot of it's unintentional, which they are reversing a lot of these calls now, like you did say, Knox, you know, which I do love to see.
So, guys, I've been a Georgia fan my entire life, going to games. I went to games as a kid growing up. I think, Drew, even me and you went to a game one time together when we were kids. I've been to these tailgates. I know how these South Carolina fans are. I knew exactly what was going to happen when we made this video, and we came out with this aggressive prediction saying what was going to happen. So I think I said my score prediction was 45-13. Didn't shake out that way, but it felt like it because Carolina came along. They scored 2 touchdowns in garbage time. Whatever. I don't really care. Arkansas dominated that entire game, especially in the first half. I mean, they just bludgeoned. Did they end up running for 300 yards?
I don't know what the official total yard count was for rushing.
They had like 230 late in the third quarter.
That's crazy.
They absolutely bludgeoned South Carolina, and I loved how they did it too. Like, they started in the first quarter, they would just run trips or dubs with 11 personnel, and they just run power. They just run zone, just over and over again. And then at the end, towards the second quarter, they started mixing in misdirection. They started running end arounds, jet sweeps, shovel passes. I mean, they mixed up their running attack so well, and then it played right into their play action game. I mean, they were just confusing the already compromised South Carolina linebacker group, and it was honestly just beautiful to see. And then not only were the concepts great, but they also were just physical, man. I mean, that O-line was physical. KJ Jefferson was physical. How many plays did you see with Raheem Sanders? He would have contact at about 6 yards, and he would just pound and power for another 3-4 yards. I mean, they
running through arm tackles.
They came out with a mindset that they were going to go and beat them up, and it plays right into the culture thing, like we were talking about in our preview prediction video. Sam Pittman, and I remember there were even so a few days before going into the game, there were actually issues with ticket sales because of it being a noon game, but Pittman got on Twitter and was talking, and he was like, he's got the fans into it, he's got the players into it. Like, this is what, and honestly, it's kind of, I mean, we'll see what happens at the end of this week after all the upsets that happened, but Arkansas being at 16 was already criminal to me in the first place. I don't even think this game was really South Carolina losing. I just think it was more Arkansas just had a great game plan and they executed it very well.
Yeah, dude, you're 100% right. Their first 12 or maybe it was 15 plays were all runs. 3rd and 6, they were running the ball. 3rd and 7, they ran the ball. It was obvious they were trying to make a statement. Like you said, the way they were able to set up the play action, in the end of the second quarter and through the second half was beautiful. But we saw he was able to get his skill position players the ball. Trey Knox and Jaden Hazelwood, 2 guys we talked about in our preview prediction that are going to have an impact for this Arkansas team to take the next step. And I love what I saw from both of them. Trey Knox stepped up his run blocking. I know that was one thing that you were iffy on with Knox, and I was blown away with that. And Bumper Pool and Drew Sanders, absolute monsters, especially Drew Sanders. His lateral quickness and the way that he closes into gaps, I'm going to be honest, I've never seen it from a white boy in college football. I'm going to be straight up.
I mean, we've seen safeties. We've seen safety white boys do it. Like, what's his name? We played at Minnesota for a long time. Minnesota Vikings.
Harrison Smith, is that his name?
Harrison Smith, yeah. But he's at linebacker and being physical. Dude, that one sack he had where I think he was spying and Rattler came out on the right side and started rolling out to his right, and he closed out like he was Trayvon Walker rather from Georgia last year. Like, I was like, whoa, because I knew Drew Sanders was talented, but this was like his breakout game. He could end up being a first round pick for sure.
Yeah, one thing about the defense that I didn't like, they came out with 4 down linemen, and I like that. I love 4 down linemen. And then they came once they saw that South Carolina abandoned the run. It was just throwing. They came out and with 3 down linemen were sitting in even front, not sending any of their linebackers, just giving Rattler all day to throw when pressure was getting to Rattler at the beginning of the game, and it was helping them so much. And whenever you're dropping 8 into coverage and only sending 3, there is still going to be holes in those zones. I don't care how many guys you drop into coverage, and I don't care how good the quarterback is. If he has all day to throw, he's going to make something happen, and that's what we saw. A lot of the yards that Spencer Rattler threw in the air was against a prevent defense when he had all day to throw. And even when he had all day to throw, only getting 3 rushed against him, he's still getting rattled, Spencer rattled, and running out the pocket for no reason, and then making bad throws. It's like, dude, you got all day. Just sit back and have the confidence to sling it. But Arkansas was able to get pressure on him early, which we all know Spencer rattled. He can't handle the pressure at all. We talk about Bryce Young. This guy really folds whenever he sees a different colored jersey in his face. And Arkansas had success with that at the beginning of the game, but they abandoned it, and they left number 17, the white corner. I think it's the only white corner I've seen in college football since I've been alive. He's getting toasted. You got this guy on an island, man. You got to get some pressure to, you got to get a hand in the quarterback's face. You got to get him out of his flow, and there wasn't a lot of that, towards the end of the game, but it was fine because Arkansas's offense had given themselves so much of a lead, and they were dominant. They were dominating that South Carolina defense. A couple of guys, like they were hurting the South Carolina defense. I mean, they were going away banged and bruised throughout the whole game. So that just proves to Arkansas's physicality. Like you said, with Pittman's culture, he's bringing in physical guys who want to come and be a part of a physical freaking team where we're gonna dominate the other team. So I love to see it with Arkansas.
And one thing I want to note about South Carolina, and we said this in the preview prediction, and I hope they understand this now. The talent gap from the SEC and the Sun Belt is there. Georgia State has a good front seven. I know I was getting comments, and I looked at all of them, about how South Carolina fans were trying to make up the excuse that the reason they couldn't run the ball well is because Georgia State had a good front seven. And my response to that is like, okay, maybe they do. But Arkansas's front seven is going to be something you guys haven't seen before in terms of this season. Georgia State doesn't compare to an Arkansas defense. It's two totally different things, and we saw it with Drew Sanders and the linebackers and just the speed in which they pursue the ball. They were shutting down everything that was going to the outside. They just shut down the run in general. I think South Carolina had like 1.4 yards per rush. Now, Arkansas is going to have to figure out that secondary issue. There were a lot of times where receivers were getting wide open down the field, and some of it was coming from lack of pressure, which gave Spencer Rattler a lot of time. And you can't expect a secondary to hold SEC wide receivers for more than 4 or 5 seconds. I mean, that's just not possible. But there were a lot of plays where Arkansas had some misassignments in the secondary. There were receivers coming wide open. Spencer Rattler did actually make an accurate throw. And Spencer Rattler, man, I don't care. He had 376 yards. Like you guys said, that came in garbage time. Arkansas is in a prevent defense. They're giving up everything underneath. They're trying to prevent the deep ball because they already got the game kind of put away. There's no reason to give up anything over the top. And allow South Carolina to score quickly. And then we already have comments coming in this morning and last night about how Spencer Rattler had a great game because he threw for 376 yards. Like
people who say that are absolutely retarded. I'm gonna just say.
Did he throw 2 picks in the red zone? Did he throw 2 picks in the red zone?
I know he threw one in the red zone. South Carolina was driving and could have put this game kind of within reach. Could have made it a ball game again, and he chucks and throws it right to an Arkansas defensive back.
Yeah. He did that. I think 2 picks.
And they got a lucky break on 3rd and 17 when they had that touchdown. That receiver was wide open, running butt naked down the middle of the field. So they got a break with that too.
Yeah, that was an Arkansas issue. They do have to shore up that secondary.
And another thing that was funny
he threw
too.
1 pick.
Another thing that was funny too. Yeah, it was one interception. I just saw it too. Another thing I wanted to say that's funny too. All of a sudden, we had South Carolina fans all week saying they were going to score a lot of points because Arkansas's defense is not good. Their secondary is trash. And then the same guy that said that wanted to come on last night and say how good Arkansas's defense was, and South Carolina played a great game against a great Arkansas defense. I don't know if that's just a routine with South Carolina fans. Every team they're about to play is bad and terrible, and South Carolina's going to put up 40 and 50 points. But as soon as the game's over and South Carolina loses, all of a sudden the team they just lost to is a great and elite team that's on the way to the playoffs. They do this week after week, and I've seen it for years now. When are y'all going to learn that these teams you play are better than what you think. When are you guys going to learn that South Carolina is not a good team? You just aren't there yet.
Hey, man. Georgia did not cover the spread against Samford. They got a shot this week.
And
That's gonna be it. That's gonna be. You know, the spread for Georgia Samford was 52. They didn't cover. Yeah, but that's what South Carolina fans are gonna be saying. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Spencer Rattler, you saw how he was able to uncork it over the top, and we were able to stop the run in certain situations against Arkansas. I don't know. We might have. I think we could beat Georgia. That's what they're gonna say this week. I mean, it's just they've been doing this. I know people that do this, and it's only South Carolina fans. I swear to you, it's only South Carolina fans. Maybe Auburn fans will do it every once in a while. Florida fans aren't really like. It's like South Carolina. They have the worst fans, and Aiden, and Tennessee is right after.
Dude, I can't believe you just said. I can't believe you just said that. I'm sitting here with two Georgia fans. Y'all are attacking the one-soul Tennessee ball fan. That's fitting. That shows the Georgia fan base right there. Y'all have the most toxic fan base. I don't give a fuck.
We're on our high horse right now.
You don't know what I go through.
We come after Tennessee. I'll admit.
With this motherfucker's fans down here.
Hey, we're gonna be number one this week. I don't care. You know, we're on top of the world. So I'm just gonna keep riding this wave until it crashes. But here, I gotta go get my DoorDash real quick.
All right. But finishing up the South Carolina-Arkansas game, spoiler alert, South Carolina fan, me and Naden are doing a Georgia and South Carolina preview prediction, and it's not looking good for you guys. So you might as well go ahead and tell us how bad Georgia is and go ahead and get that out of the way now so we don't have to wait till the preview prediction video to see all that. Keeping it SEC here, we're going to go ahead and move on. Tennessee, Pitt. Tennessee, that's a good win. I mean, a lot of people are probably going to say Tennessee maybe should have won by a lot more because Pitt went down to their second-string quarterback. I'm not buying that. I think Tennessee had a really good win here. And the offense, obviously they got off to a slow start, but they really got it clicking later on. They're going to have to avoid that moving down the road. But Aiden, obviously Tennessee Vol fan, I'm going to let you kick this one off. Tennessee, they really stepped it up on defense this week, I think. Part of it might have been the backup quarterback. I don't know. But to me, Tennessee got the win. That's all that matters.
No, don't take away from the Tennessee Volunteers' credit, okay? Our one question mark heading into this season was our defense, all right? And I'm telling y'all, if we shored up our defense going into this year, we'd be a 9-win football team. And we're going to be a 9-win football team this year, okay? The pressure that our front seven was getting on Pitt's quarterback, absolutely phenomenal. The run defense, absolutely phenomenal. The linebacker, number 33, I can't remember. He doesn't deserve for me to know his name, okay? If he starts making some plays, I'll take the time to remember his name. But he actually stepped it up. I was actually a little bit impressed. I think his name is Jeremy Banks. I could be butchering it, but he had multiple chances for interceptions in this game, and this dude has butter fingers. This man cannot catch a cold in the winter butt naked. This man can't catch COVID in 2020. This man, he can't catch shit. 3 balls went off the tip of his hands. But still, in the passing game defensively, or in the passing defense, I thought he stepped up. But yeah, the whole defense stepped up all around. Love the energy that they were bringing. And yeah, talking about Hendon Hooker, I've never been the biggest Hendon Hooker fan. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that the offense we run and the scheme that Heupel brought, any average quarterback would look great, especially against, a questionable Pitt defense. So I do want to see things shored up there. And also, I want to see on offense, I want to see one of our receivers do something other than Cedric Tillman. Georgia and Alabama, they're going to take away your best player, okay? And you're going to have to win with your other 4 offensive skill position players. And I haven't seen that receiver for Tennessee that's going to step up and if Cedric Tillman goes down or if he's capped up. And also, Jabari Smalls, I want to see every time a defender touches him, he goes down. So I want to see him start breaking tackles. I want to see him start running a little bit harder. Now, I know Vols fans might be coming at my neck for saying this, going at some of these offensive players like this, but I'm holding these guys to a higher bar. I know what Tennessee's capable of. I got to put up with guys like this all the time who tell me Tennessee sucks. So I'm holding these guys to a higher standard. I want to see, Tennessee be as good as they can be, and I know that they can do it, but they just got a couple things that they need to shore up.
I never said Tennessee sucks, man. I just said your fan base is a little bit questionable, and y'all might cheat here and there and try to break Nick Tubbs' leg in fucking Knoxville. So I don't know, man.
He didn't deliberately break his fucking leg.
You guys know you have a great team. You have a great team, and y'all are poised. I mean, I'm really excited to see you guys play Florida. I'm very excited for that game. I could see it being very high scoring. I could see it being low scoring. I don't know, and I just hate that you guys have to schedule Alabama every year. Like I need to get out of that deal. Because it just takes all the wind out of y'all's sails every year, because y'all start to get some momentum, and then it seems like you play Bama, but for some reason y'all play Bama well too, but then you just lose that close game against Bama every year. I don't know, man, but yeah, the way I was really impressed with Tennessee's defense this past week. I didn't really get to watch much of the game. Unfortunately, I had to be at work yesterday. That 9 to 5 that y'all South Carolina fans are talking about, I do have one, and then I still have the time. I'm in school, I have a 9 to 5, and then at the same time, I have the time to go and watch film and look at these stats, and then school all of y'all in the conversation. School all of y'all. So I don't want to hear it, okay? We know what we're talking about, and we're going to keep talking about it, and y'all can keep getting mad about it. I don't care, man. Wait, who's Tennessee play this week?
Is it Florida this week? No, they play Akron.
Okay.
So it's a
no-brainer game.
It's an easy win. Another game to get some stuff figured out. And Tennessee's defense, they did play well. They're still going to have to figure out that rush defense a little bit. Pitt did have a lot of success running the ball. But at the end of the day, Tennessee secondary looked much improved, and I think that's really important going forward, because if Tennessee can get that situation figured out where they can stop the run and get off the field on these third downs and not give up 4 or 5 yard rushes per carry, they're going to put themselves in good shape to win a lot of these games, even against your Georgias and Alabamas. In Tennessee, like I said, they're going to have to avoid those slow starts, because if you go against a Georgia and Alabama, you're not always going to get a bone thrown to you, or Georgia's and Alabama's going to make a mistake going in the red zone, because Pitt had every advantage in the world. They went up 10-0, got in the red zone, and Tennessee made a terrific interception, don't get me wrong, but that's not always going to be the case. Pitt could have easily went up 17-0, and I don't know by that point what kind of team Tennessee still is. I don't know how they would bounce back from that. But I think that was definitely one of the biggest momentum changers there. And then Tennessee's defense did a really good job getting to the quarterback, but Pitt's offensive line is absolutely terrible too. I mean, Keaton Slovis went down because the Pitt offensive line couldn't protect him. He was getting hit almost every single time he dropped back to pass. So in comes Nick Patty, Pitt's second-string quarterback. He gets hit 3 or 4 times, and this man's on one leg for the rest of the game. I don't know why Pitt kept him in, by the way. I mean, he didn't look that good. It's hard to just throw in your third-string quarterback as easy as that. Sometimes you just got to roll with your better player. But, I mean, Nick Patty was on one leg, and I don't know. And then you had Pitt's wide receivers. Pitt dropped a lot of passes. In overtime, that Pitt wide receiver, Nick Patty, actually made a decent throw scrambling out and threw it up. And the Pitt receiver just had no awareness of where the out-of-bounds was. He caught the ball, and his foot was out of bounds. So that was another, and obviously Pitt went on to lose the game after that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Pitt, because quite frankly, I don't really care. I don't think Pitt's really much of a threat this year in terms of winning the ACC anymore. But they got to get that squared away.
Yeah. But we want to talk about the upsets. I mean, there was just 20 crazy different upsets.
I mean, even Kentucky and Florida is technically an upset.
Yeah, Kentucky, Florida.
Upset. I mean, they beat them pretty bad too, honestly.
It was 26-16, right?
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson played probably the worst game I've ever seen a quarterback play in an SEC game like that. That was absolutely abysmal. He cannot throw the ball.
Yeah, see, I was watching the UFC when that game kicked off. So
I was. Well, I mean, and I think, you know what, and it takes me back to last week, because he won SEC Player of the Week last week for his performance against Utah, where he had a great game running and he had an okay game passing, made a lot of questionable throws that should have been intercepted that weren't against Utah, and they did get intercepted against Kentucky. That just shows the SEC speed. But they named him Player of the Week after Stetson Bennett just played the game of his life against Oregon, and he threw for almost 400 yards in 3 quarters. And they didn't give it to him. And I'm thinking, why is that? Why did Anthony Richardson get Player of the Week? And it's because he was sexy, man. They're thinking this guy is, I mean, he's like the second coming of, Cam Newton or whatever, which KJ Jefferson is really that guy. He's not. but he was explosive. He made cool highlight plays and looked really cool, and then won a close game against Utah. But then Stetson Bennett, who has a flip phone, is over here throwing for 400 yards on y'all's heads in 3 quarters, and people don't want to admit that he's a good quarterback, including Drew sometimes. Me and Drew have talked about this.
That was last year.
Me and Drew
That was last year when Stetson Bennett was throwing for 70 yards against an Arkansas team, turning the ball over in other games. That was last year, Knox. I moved on.
Okay.
So y'all are both. So you're in on Stetson now. You're in on Stetson.
I'm not going to sit here and say he's an elite quarterback and deserves to be, with the Bryce Young's the top quarterbacks in the college football world. But I mean, anyone would have to admit he's improved. He has confidence now, and
it's getting starters rep.
But here's my thing: Oregon's a Pac-12 team with a bad defense, and he got Brock Bowers. He got that 6'7" tight end he's throwing to. Like, I'm gonna have to see it against the SEC school. Like,
but some of those throws he was making,
secondary was trash. Like, they didn't want anything to do with those Georgia receivers. They were scared shitless.
Regardless of how bad that Oregon defense was, Stetson Bennett still made a lot of great throws in that game that a lot of average quarterbacks wouldn't have been able to do. There were times where Stetson Bennett was escaping 3-4 players about to sack him, and he would run around for a little bit and then make a great throw down the field for a touchdown. I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks that can do what he did, but I'm just trying to say he improved so much. Those aren't plays he's making last year. That play you saw in Oregon where he ran around like a chicken with his head cut off and then found an open receiver in the end zone, he didn't have that in him last year. So he's definitely improved, and he's got to be able to throw the ball accurately, which he's been doing this season. And Georgia's going to be in good shape.
He's getting starters reps. He was getting starters reps all offseason. That's the difference. Where going into 2021 season, he was getting third stringers reps, hardly even backup reps in the offseason. And now you give him, it's his team, and you say it's his team in January, and you give him the whole season or the whole offseason. That's the difference. And he actually got to gel with these receivers. And I know I am biased, extraordinarily biased, but this Georgia team is loaded, man. It's got the bet. I mean, this is probably they have the scariest 12 personnel I think I've ever seen.
I would stay in it all the time. I would.
They do for the most part. And then they could even go 13 with Eric Gilbert or Oscar Delp. I mean, it's terrifying what they're able to do, man. And
just to stay on this, that kind of gets into with this four-team college football playoffs. Since they've announced the 4-team playoff system, only former champions of that system have gotten like 55 stars, 45 stars on their roster. Yeah. All these other programs are getting less and less talent, and it's making college football more top heavy. I was listening to Joey Klatt, and he said that's why he's a proponent of the 8-man playoff or the 18 playoff system. And after hearing his reasoning on it, I'm not necessarily against it because I definitely don't want to see Georgia turn into an Alabama type dynasty. I'll go hang myself by the Savannah River.
Yeah, I mean I used to be against that idea because I'm thinking, the top 4 teams, it's really only 3 teams that are really good most of the time. Is there even a reason for these bottom tier teams to play, like number 12 play, number 4, however they're going to do it? But then I heard that same segment that you listened to with Joel Klatt, and it made a lot of sense because why is it that these top 3 teams are so dominant? Because they win, and then they get the recruits after that, and it just becomes it's like a full free capitalist, like Teddy Roosevelt is coming along and he's breaking up the trust. That's what's about to happen with recruiting. And I'm all for it, man. I mean, even though I do want to see Georgia win every year and every game. Like I do love college football too, and I want to see some more competitiveness. I mean, we saw Bama and Texas. Maybe it could start going that way. I mean, A&M is just an utter. I guess we can kind of segue into A&M and App State. I mean, they're just an utter disappointment. They have been for the past 5 years. I mean, Jimbo, something's got to shake with Jimbo.
This is my thing. That's why. Sorry, Drew. That's why I don't give these coaches who have been head coaches in the SEC at 2-3 different schools. Don't give them another chance. You know what they do. They're an 8-4 coach. They are a 9-3 coach. Why are you giving this guy multiple chances at multiple different SEC schools? We know what he is. That's why we're seeing in the NFL younger and younger guys getting hired, because we want to see who they are. The Sean McVays, you know. People are wanting to take chances on younger guys because, like, there's no, if he's not worth it, you just fire him and rebuild again. But you have Jimbo Fisher, who, like, okay, yeah, he's a recruiter. Like, he can do the recruiting stuff. But when it comes to winning football games, he cannot win at the highest level. And I think I was talking to you, Knox. You said that, yeah, but Jimbo Fisher got that national championship at Florida State. But this is my argument. You can't ride off these championship wins from 6-7 years ago if you don't have any other success. And coaches do it even further back than that. Yeah, 10, 15 years ago. Oh, but he got a championship win in 1999. Look at this. Like, come on. We got to step it up here. We got to start giving these other guys chances.
You know. I mean, so I want to let Drew talk a little bit too, but I'll just say something quick. I was on the Jimbo train because I was thinking, okay, this is the year for A&M. This is the year, 2022. The recruiting class has been number one, back-to-back years, right? I mean, These guys are finally getting developed. They showed some promise at the end of last year. I mean, there's no COVID practice anymore, so now all this talent can come in and actually do film together and practice together. This is going to be the year for A&M. And then they have that questionable performance in week one. They're like, ooh, I don't know. Maybe it's just week one. But then, I mean, they showed what they really are. And I gotta say, Aiden, I mean, you were right, man. I mean, they won Florida State. What was it, 2013? They won that national.
I think so.
And they had like the most loaded I can't even remember how many NFL guys were on that roster. And Jameis Winston obviously was at the height of his powers. You know, that was a great
crab legs like a G.
And we won't talk about all his other criminal activities, but he had a few of them. I love Jameis, man.
Yeah,
I love Jameis, but Jimbo Fisher is he's stuck in the mud, man. He's stuck in the mud. Nick Saban's so great because he was able to adjust and change to the tides of college football. Even in his old bat age, he's able to adjust and change.
Even after successful years, even after winning national championships, he comes and adapts in every offseason.
Yeah, and that's why he's great, man, because he has the humility to check his own strategy, to check how you're going to run an offense, how you're going to recruit. And Jimbo Fisher just hasn't been able to do that, and it's just, I don't even feel bad for him at this point. Like, I feel bad for the players who at A&M who were promised all this, and I mean, it's a sad story. I mean, I think Jimbo Fisher needs a real reality check, and
I think he's got to be his last year.
$30,000 position in the outfield on the Alabama coaching staff. He needs to go be assistant to Nick Saban, like Butch Jones.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at Texas A&M's schedule, and initially I didn't think anything of Texas A&M's weird performance in week one against Sam Houston. They won 31-0, but they had a weird weather delay that lasted for a couple hours, and so I was like, okay, that was a weird game. Whatever. You come out to lose to App State. Yes, App State's not a terrible team, but you have way too much talent on that Texas A&M roster to be losing games like this. App State shouldn't even be a threat. Should not even be a threat. And look at their next 4 games. You play Miami next week. You play Arkansas, at Mississippi State, at Alabama. If you can't beat App State, where's the win? Where do you get the win in those the stretch of 4?
Well, they'll beat Miami because Miami's dog water.
Are they though?
Miami looked pretty good. Miami did not look bad yesterday.
Do you think that Texas A&M against App State is going to beat that Miami team?
Miami looked really good in the second half yesterday. They looked really good.
I don't know.
I will say Miami did play Southern Miss. It's hard to really gauge Miami right now because they haven't had that big game yet against another school with equal or more talent. So there's only, we really won't know until that game kicks off and that game is played. I don't think A&M's beating Arkansas. You're not beating Alabama. You'll beat South Carolina. South Carolina fans, if you're still watching this, I'm sorry. No.
Maybe.
No, South Carolina's losing that game. A&M hasn't lost to South Carolina since they've been in the SEC.
Wow.
And that's not too hard this year. Yeah, that's not changing this year. I'm sorry, South Carolina fan. Go ahead and type.
The Losers Bowl right there, dude. Golly.
But the App State A&M game, like App State's they've been a great team. They get great recruits, and they have for years. But that goes like what we always talk about on this channel, the culture versus talent and how important culture is. Like you see, and that's a prime example. What a winning culture does and a successful culture does against a team that has even some of the best talent there is to offer, you can still lose.
Yeah.
Well, that's just one upset. There's still plenty more we have to get to. I don't know if we'll be able to touch on all those as long as we did on that one, but we'll go ahead and go to Notre Dame. I don't know if Marcus Freeman is doing a speed run challenge on how fast he can get fired from Notre Dame, because if there's any way you can get fired any quicker, you lose games like this. That man is 0-3 as head coach for Notre Dame, and it's not a talent issue by any means. Notre Dame is still really, really talented.
Their quarterback play in that game was absolutely abysmal, and then their starter quarterback goes and pitches a fit on the sideline. They throw the backup in, and he shits the bed too. And you know, whenever you have a loss like that, that is a season-ending loss. Notre Dame is overranked every year, and we're starting to see the same thing with Clemson every year, where we're just ranking these fucking teams in the top 8 when they haven't done shit. And look at what happens. You got Arkansas at 16, who's fighting in the SEC, fucking scraping and clawing their way to get a better ranking, and then you're gifting the Notre Dames and the Clemsons of the world top 10s when Notre Dame goes out and shits the whole guy. Like they just absolutely played like shit.
Yeah, I mean, I know Randy Moss was sitting at home just. I want to see Randy Moss's reaction in this game, man, because that's the only reason I even know who Marshall is or really pay attention is because Randy Moss played there. But, yeah, I mean, this is the argument against and for the 12-team playoff. It's against and for it because you realize, okay, they need recruits, but at the same time, it's going to be a rough first few years of this playoff because the top 4 teams, really the top 3 teams, are just going to bludgeon and annihilate these bottom-tier teams in the first few years of playoff. You know, it'll change over time, but, I mean, yeah, Notre Dame just did not look good at all. Marshall came to play. I think a lot of these teams, I think Notre Dame and a lot of these other teams, they start to buy into their own hype, and that's a coaching issue. They 100%. Buy into their own hype, and then they come in against these other teams that they think they're just going to roll over, and they get punched in the mouth. And then in the second half, they're flailing. They haven't been in the situation before. The coach doesn't know how to adjust, and then all of a sudden, they're behind 2 scores, and the game is over.
Yeah.
Like, it happens like that. This is why, and I've seen you guys talk about this is why we talk about this. We buy into programs who have legitimate coaching staffs. I'm talking head coach all the way to the GAs. This does not happen to those schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to the Bamas and Arkansas, we've been talking ad nauseum about Arkansas, but I mean, I believe
Pittman is a prime example of that culture you're talking about, dude.
Yeah, and you have, it's like you were saying, a Notre Dame, Clemson, I mean A&M, like all these teams who are just in the top 10 for what? Like, what do they do?
Exactly.
I mean, it blows my mind, man. And then Utah came out and they showed that how angry they were from last week in this game. They put up 73 points, but against Southern Utah. But I mean, a lot of these teams, they just haven't really proven anything, and they don't. And it's a coaching thing, man. And I don't know. Something's got to change with a lot of these schools. Like, literally, I think Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, like, these guys should go and like host seminars and sit like on an elevated surface and talk to these college coaches, being like, look, our sport's gonna die if y'all just let us keep winning, so we're gonna teach you guys how to coach, like, for real, and like build a program. Even Brian Kelly at LSU. I mean, dude, he was supposed to come in, like, oh man.
No, dude, come on. You really think that he was going to be successful after faking that Southern accent? I don't even want to talk about him. But what you were saying about coaching, that's a good transition. Scott Frost.
Oh.
What's going on? I mean, all 3 of us are huge fans of Georgia Southern. We're huge fans of the Sun Belt. We've been saying forever how competitive the Sun Belt is. It's the best non-Power 5 conference. And me and Drew said in our first podcast, this Georgia Southern team, watch out. Watch out. We were saying it before the season, man, and you know, they come and they run this air raid, and all of a sudden we're putting up 45 points. Who would have ever thought Georgia Southern would put up 45 points? I mean, this is absolutely crazy, but just speaking on Scott Frost, like, what's going on, man? Like, what's going on? He looks like he has no energy on the sideline. He looks like defeated.
Yeah. I have no idea. Well, I'll let Drew get into it. I've been talking with him.
The fact that, I don't know, I haven't looked anything up this morning. If Scott Frost is still employed by Nebraska today, then the problem is going further beyond him. Nebraska is a program that is historically known to be great. They've had a lot of success in the past. They have a high standard, and have had a high standard for a very long time, especially when Scott Frost came in. They expected results, and they have not gotten. He hasn't had one winning season. Not one. Any other school, I think, that had a standard like Nebraska does would have kicked him out immediately. If I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm starting to question what's really going on behind the scenes and why is he still the head coach. He's obviously proven he can't win big-time games. He can't really win games in general. He doesn't recruit very well. And he should have been fired the moment that Georgia Southern game ended last night. And I told my dad about this too. I was like, if he walks out that field still employed as Nebraska, Nebraska's problem goes way beyond him. Because you can't lose another game like that. Scott Frost, obviously, the season's already over for Nebraska. They're going to hit another 4-8, 5-7 win season at best.
No, they're not winning 5 games. They're not winning 5 games, and they're going to lose all their talent. Like, and Nebraska is a hard place to recruit to. And I think that the main reason that they haven't fired Scott Frost yet is because he played at Nebraska, and he was coming off all that success at UCF, and, you know, they thought that he was going to be their savior. I said this in our preview in Arkansas, South Carolina. Sometimes, like, when a fan base and a program has absolutely no hope, like no hope at all, and there's just that beacon of light, you know, even if it's just as dim as it can be. Like, for South Carolina, it was Spencer Rattler. They thought he was going to come and change the program. For Nebraska, they thought it was going to be Scott Frost, but these guys aren't the answer, but they just believe in them. Because it's the only thing that they believe in. Once they don't believe in those two guys, like, there's no hope for either of those teams.
Man, I went to Georgia Southern. Okay, my freshman year of college, I went there. We talk about, I mean, I guess culture is just becoming the theme of this show today. I mean, Clay, they don't have the same coach. They have Clay Helton now, but the way that campus absolutely unifies around their program, and they've been doing it since the 80s, since they came along. I mean, Georgia Southern came in and won a national championship, and it was like, I think their second year even having a football team. Like, they with the Irk Russell legends, and I mean, they care, man. Like, people really care about Georgia Southern football team. And, you know, here in the state of Georgia, we know that Georgia Southern is a really good spot for a lot of these high school players. Like, when guys graduate and you hear, oh, they went to Southern, that's good, man. Like, people are excited to play there, and it's a really highly touted school. And they have NFL guys go there all the time, or go from there all the time. So, and then you come in with Nebraska, and it's like UCF like softened Scott Frost up. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got used to living in Orlando and then realized he had to go back to the Midwest and was like, oh, damn, I'm out here again in this cold weather where there's nothing around me. Like, I don't know what happened, man, but it seemed like he just lost his fire to coach. I mean, I don't understand. Like, he was like, I mean, when did he get hired there? Was it 2017, 2018? Something like that?
I think it was after the 18 season.
Okay.
But I'm not on that.
He was like up there, like people looked at him kind of like Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
People looked at him like he was this. I mean, and Lincoln Riley, you know, he's come along at USC, and who knows, man? USC might win the Pac-12 this year.
They look really good this year.
They do look good. USC looks really good.
They're going to win the Pac-12 by far. You're going to destroy everybody in the Pac-12.
Yeah. So, you know, the Scott Frost, the Jimbo Fishers. I don't know what's going on with these coaches that we thought were really special. That just, I mean, they end up at lower tier programs and they can't seem to revive them. I mean, Kirby Smart came along and revived Georgia. Nick Saban came along. I mean, before Nick Saban got to Bama was bad. Bama was bad. before he got there, and he came and he changed the program. Like there's not many coaches. We're finding that there's just not many coaches that are able to do that nowadays. It's tough, man.
At all levels.
But the Nick Saban, like a coach like him, he's really diluted what it means to be a good coach or a great coach. Like Dabo Swinney, amazing job. That he's done an amazing job at Clemson, and there's other guys like that too. But Ryan Day at Ohio State. Now I know Ohio State head coach is kind of just like plug and play, but he had some big shoes to fill when he got the job. So there is good coaches out there, but when you got a Nick Saban who year in year out is absolutely dominating, it does dilute the definition of success for these coaches a little bit.
Even South Carolina, I'll give you some credit. I think Shane Beamer is building something relatively special for South Carolina. It's the coaches that I was talking about, Aiden. It's like we mentioned earlier. People starting to buy into the younger coaches. Ryan Day is a young coach. Shane Beamer is a young coach. But these guys who have been around for a long time that we expect to, like you say, Jimbo Fisher, he won a national championship at Florida State. He can come to A&M and we're going to pay him how much money they paid him? What was it, like $100 million? No, it wasn't $100 million. But they paid him a lot of money. They paid Jimbo Fisher loads of money to go and coach there because they thought. But these guys are stuck in the mud, man. They're stuck in the mud. They really. I don't know them. I don't want to demean their character, but it seems like they just care about the money, dude. They don't really want to adjust with the times. Like Nick Saban cares about winning. Shane Beamer. You see him in interviews after games. He cares about South Carolina. He cares about winning.
100%. I agree with that for sure.
These guys. Scott Frost after the game, he was just like, yeah, they got after us. That's what he said after the Southern.
He's just used to losing. He's just gotten used to losing at this point.
A wise man once said that would be classified as an apathetic loser. And I think we all know one of those ourselves. But anyways, moving on from the Scott Frost and the UFC.
Man. Let's go.
So
let's go.
Crazy card, a whole bunch of catchweight fights. I guess we'll just start. Do you want to go from the top down, or how do you want to do it, Knox?
Well, I didn't get off work until like 11:15, 11:30, so I only got to watch the Leach and Rodriguez fight and on from there. So I didn't get to watch the first two on the card.
Okay, cool. So we'll just start. We'll just start with the Leach and Rodriguez. So a Chinese man, for those of you who don't know, just got robbed in America last night.
Yeah.
He won the decision. He did everything he could have done to win the fight. He's fighting a guy 10 pounds heavier on 2 days' notice. He's not going to be going out, and pressuring him. He's sitting back countering, and he's popping him with shots, doing more damage. The other guy, he was not pushing the pace. He was scared to open up because he was going to get countered. And Li Jingliang had the guy missing damn near his head movement was phenomenal. I've never seen Li Jingliang's head movement that good. Normally he's sitting with his hands down getting popped.
He was only getting hit like Rodriguez was. He was only content. He was like content with just jabbing him. Like he didn't want to follow up. Because I remember I was watching the fight and I was getting frustrated because Leach he would throw the jab and then Leach would slip to the power hand. He wouldn't slip outside. He would slip to the inside, and it's like, bro, just throw the two. Like, what are you doing? Just throw the 1-2. And he was just not. I don't know if he was lazy or he just didn't care about fighting him because he wasn't slated to fight him originally. I don't know. But even after the decision, you saw Rodriguez go like this. Yeah. He was like, I won?
Yeah. He said it in the interview too. He didn't think he did enough to win the fight.
Yeah.
And he looked uncharacteristic. I've seen his previous two fights, and he was dominant, knocking people out, looking ferocious. But like you said, he was flat-footed, scared to open up, and I don't think that he deserved to win that fight at all. If I was Li Jingliang, I would have been pissed. And they were booing him. Like, look, I understand the China versus America shit, but Li Jingliang is a class act. He's a class act. But okay, so the next fight, Khamzat Chimaev versus Kevin Holland.
This is WWE now. This is WWE, but there are real consequences. Okay, this is insanity right now. And Khamzat is bought into just playing the heel completely. He just wants to play the heel. He goes in like Kevin Holland goes for a handshake and then boom, shoots the takedown. By the way, this was a terrible matchup in the first place. Kevin Holland had no chance of winning this fight, like at any point. I mean, the odds were it was like minus 560, which I think
should have been double that, but whatever.
Way higher than that. I mean, he's bigger than Kevin Holland. His wrestling is way better. It's kind of like, it reminded me of the Islam and Bobby Green fight a while back.
Yeah.
Just like
good comparison.
Just like
yeah. But we saw the difference between Islam and a cum shot in that fight, because Islam's going to draw it out and make him, that's why I don't like Islam. Like, go finish the guy. That's why I like Chimaev so much. If you know you're so much better than the dude, go show us. Go finish the dude. And that's what we saw with Chimaev. He did the fake glove touch like in UFC 4, which is absolute cheese. And me and you used to play UFC all the time. We would have been scrapping if one of us did that shit. That's unforgivable.
Guys, me and Aiden have almost gotten into fist fights over UFC. I'm not even lying. We would sit there and play for hours on end. I mean, hours. And then I remember, I can't remember exactly what happened, but you go up halfway up your stairs in your house, and then because I was like, hey, I think I had just won. Like, finally, I just won. Like, you had been beating my ass the whole time. I won like 12 in a row, and then and then I finally won, and I was talking all my shit, and then you're like, bro, I got it, bro. I mean, what do you want to do? Like, I gotta get away from you. At the top of the stairs, like trying to fight.
Oh my god, dude! God bless.
Days, man. But anyways, yeah, like Kevin Holland did a good job scrambling for as long as he could, but it was just delaying the inevitable. Yeah. I mean, I respect the fact that Chimaev, like you said, he goes in there and he finishes him, and it's like he knows. He's like, I know I'm better than him. I'm going to go in there, and I'm just going to grapple him. He's going to get tired, and I'm just going to choke him out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He wrestled him the whole fight. Kevin Holland got tired, scrambling. And he did a good job just, forcing scrambles and just kept on moving and getting in new positions. But Khamzat's control is world-class.
It is if not the best in the world.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I want to see him fight Colby Covington next, because I want Colby Covington to put it into the hype train. He's not going to wrestle Colby. No,
he's not. But is he going to fight at middleweight now? Like what is he doing? Is he going to go back to 170? Right. He's like, oh, the doctor told me I can't. Like, what?
That's all a lie.
It was all BS, dude. He just didn't care. Like, does he want to set up the fight with Borrachinha now? Because that's a fight for me. Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if he went to middleweight and fought Borrachinha. But he has unfinished business at 170. So I don't know what. It depends on whatever he wants to do.
Thanks for bringing that up, because if I'm Dana, I was thinking this last night. I'm not letting him fight at 170, because he said in his post-fight interview he wants both the belts. I'm like, dude, you ain't getting the 170-pound belt, brother. You just missed weight by 8.5 pounds.
Yeah,
that's unforgivable, especially when Dana wanted to feed Nate to the wolf, quite literally.
Wolf, yeah.
But yeah, either Paulo Costa or Colby Covington, I think would be a great fight for him. I just want to see him active, and now I want to see him lose. So he's doing his job as a heel. He's doing it well.
He's doing his job for real. I mean, they were booing the shit out of him.
Oh yeah. And when he said, I'm from Chechnya, brother, I kill everybody, Allahu Akbar, I got scared for everybody in the crowd. I was genuinely scared. I was like, oh shit, watch out. Evacuations are here and here.
Dude, he's all like paying to the fans are like.
Imagine some fucking Chris Pratt's there or something. He hears that shit, just piss running down his leg. Oh, man, they gotta be terrified. But anyways, into the main event. Two of my favorite fighters of all time.
That was the weirdest fight ever.
It was the most awkward fight. You got Tony Ferguson, weird, super weird style, and Nate Diaz, his last 3 fights. I mean, it looks like he's taking a break and he's tired, but he's not. That's just that's his techniques. It's like a taunt. It's like he's not actually gasping for air along the cage.
No, what he's doing is he thinks Tony's not bringing the fight. So he's letting him know, you're fucking boring.
He did the same thing against Jorge. He's been doing it. So that's how I knew, he wasn't gassed or anything. People were saying, is he tired? No, dude, he runs triathlons.
He's not tired.
Dude ain't tired. But, I agree. It was a weird fight. neither one of them was really getting off too crazy. Of course, the leg kicks from Ferguson were absolutely destroyed. I've never seen Nate Diaz wince at a leg kick. He doesn't do anything in response to him, but I've never seen him wince from a leg kick. He
I
was
think,
wincing at a couple of those.
and I was watching I just remember there was a clip. Remember Eve Edwards? He was like the first lightweight champ. He was talking about his fight with not Nate, Tony. And Tony Ferguson he has no regard for himself. Like, he threw a leg kick at Eve Edwards, like super obvious, super telegraphed, making Eve Edwards check it. And then Eve Edwards winced, because even if you check it, it still hurts you too. And then Tony just smiled at him. He was like, you just don't care. You just want both of us to be in pain. So Tony, despite his shin, honestly, I think the scar tissue on his shin from kicking metal poles all the time. Like, this guy's a maniac. He's insane. This guy is insane. Like Nate's like, yeah, you motherfucker, like a gangster. But Tony is like a legitimate crazy person.
I know, and I love it, dude.
I love it too, man. I love it too.
This was like his first fight where he actually had a coach in a training camp, and he's not doing all this shit by himself. And I mean, you can see he's a super awkward fighter. He threw like 30 spinning back fists on the retreat because his footwork's so damn bad.
Just into the air,
dude. Just like a zoning tool.
Dude, he came like this close to landing a few elbows over the top, though. He came this close, but he could never land with them. But Nate, I think in the third round he was getting frustrated with how the fight was going, and he was like, "I just need to finish him now."
And when he decided to, he did. It looked like, I don't know. Nate is so I can't believe he was a dog going into that fight.
Yeah, I was super surprised by that. I was
couldn't believe it.
I mean, it was basically a pick'em, but he was Tony was like minus 140, I think.
That's what it closed at. It opened at him at like 170, 175.
Wow.
A whole shit ton of money. I think it might have been 180, but a whole money went on Nate Diaz. Whole shit ton of money, real quick.
I'm so surprised by that.
I thought
Tony's on a 4-fight losing streak.
And he just got knocked out, and he's fighting quicker than the guy who knocked him out. Michael Chandler hasn't fought yet. Yeah,
that is crazy. But so, what about Nate's interview after?
I hated it. It's like he couldn't say the word boxing. It's like Dana said, you could say anything, but you can't say the word boxing.
Yep,
which I think is actually what happened.
Yep.
And I just don't. I want to see the trilogy with Conor. But I do. He's standing on his business. Like, he doesn't like Dana. He doesn't like the way Dana's been doing business. So he's sticking to his word and he's leaving. So I can't diss on a man for sticking to his word. But like, I do wish he would stay and finish his career at the UFC.
Me too, because I'm gonna be honest with you, and I know a lot of our fans. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them clicked off at this point. A lot of them probably don't understand MMA quite as much as football, and these same kind of people are going to hate what I'm about to say. Jake Paul would annihilate Nate Diaz in a boxing fight. I'm going to be honest with you. He's bigger. He's younger. He trains with world-class boxing coaches every day. I'm not doubting him anymore, man. And I'm just being real with you. Like, this breaks my heart to say. This is literally breaking my heart. This is breaking my heart. But Nate, he doesn't have a lot of power in 4-ounce gloves. He has okay power to where he can clip you, but he doesn't have shut your lights out power. Jake Paul can shut your lights out. And he's done it on multiple occasions.
Okay, yeah. He got knockout power, but he is going to get circles danced around him by Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is world-class boxers, too. And they say he gives them fits. He punches from weird angles. He has a weird tempo. His style's different. Dude, if Jake Paul beats Nate Diaz, I'm going on a Jake Paul hunt. I'm serious. I'm not even joking. I can't have that. Can't happen in my reality. Jake Paul ain't beating no damn Diaz, brother.
It breaks my. It's like I said, it breaks my heart. But the youth And I just can't doubt him anymore. I can't. I hate being on the wrong side of this. Aiden. And I know Nate Diaz would be the best MMA boxer that he has fought. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. He is the best MMA boxer, Jake Paul. I mean, he's about to fight Anderson Silva. But I think he's probably even a little bit better boxer than Anderson Silva, even though Anderson Silva actually has boxed before. Nate's never boxed, has he?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Anderson Silva, he fought Cesar Chavez Jr. and Tito Ortiz, which is a joke.
Both of them were jokes.
Yeah, okay. They were both jokes. So,
but dude, there's pictures of Jake Paul at like 15, 16 with a fucking beard. Like the dude was out of shape and fat as fuck. He's not an athlete.
He is now.
He's boosting roids through the fucking through the gills. He's taking steroids. The guy's a punk, and he's fucking 6'2", and he's a bully. Like, look, dude, I hate that motherfucker.
I agree with you. I can't stand him. I think Logan is a stand-up guy, but I do not like Jake Paul at all. But the truth is the truth. And yes, he is amped on roids. That's why he gets what? How long does he get? 8 weeks? But he's winning. He's winning.
He beat Tyron Woodley and he beat Ben Askren. Like, I don't know. I think Anderson Silva is going to go and beat him really, 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 really bad. Really, 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 really bad.
I want to be wrong so badly, but
he can't knock out Silva. He can't knock out Anderson Silva.
I'm just afraid. I mean, Anderson Silva's thinking, I'm going to fight a YouTuber who everyone hates, so I'm going to go put on a show and pull a Chris Weidman. You think he's going to? I can see that being very possible. And start being. I mean, he does it in almost every fight he's in. He did it to Adesanya too, where you start showboating. I'm scared.
His boxing fights, I haven't seen much of that. I watched his whole Chavez Jr. fight, and I watched him knock out Tito Ortiz 1,000 times because that video is fucking hilarious.
Hilarious. Yeah, it is.
Just weave, pop, 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 pop. Whooping his ass. But anyways, I think that wraps it up for the UFC and the college football. Anything else you want to add at the very end here, Knox?
I mean, I guess we'll do like our own separate videos for previews and predictions for these games coming up. Yeah. But hold on, let's look at. I kind of want to look at this schedule.
All right, much this upcoming week.
We can do the Georgia South Carolina one together if you want, if that's cool with y'all.
Yeah, sure.
And then
Florida State at Louisville. Oh, I'm going to the Florida State game, by the way.
Oh, hell, dude, that'll be a pretty good game.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that.
Florida State's actually invested.
Did y'all get to watch any of that Baylor and BYU game?
No, I was asleep.
Dude, it was insane. So it's tied 20-20 at the end of the fourth quarter. BYU comes out and they drive it down, and they have a chance to kick a field goal to win the game, like as time expires. And the kicker hooks it wide left by like 10 yards. It's like a 30-yard field goal. Hooks it wide left. So it goes to OT, and Baylor gets the ball first. And they get one first down, and then they have like a 30-yarder, 35-yarder. And then they have a lefty kicker on the right hash, and he hooks it. Dude, I swear to God, he missed the net. Like the net that catches the ball, he missed it wide right so bad, it went like 20 yards right.
I don't know what's up with these kickers now in this season.
Dude, and then it was so bad. And then BYU, they ended up scoring a touchdown, 1 for 2, didn't get it. And then Baylor couldn't score, and they lost. So BYU, so that was another upset that we saw. Baylor lost as well. There were upsets, and Baylor is a top 10 team for some reason. Well, not anymore. I mean, I expect to see Arkansas is 16. I know Florida lost. Baylor lost. Notre Dame lost. A&M lost. They could see a substantial jump. Arkansas.
They should. They definitely should.
Kentucky will be up there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kentucky might go like top 12. Honestly.
What was Pitt ranked?
Pitt was 17th, if I remember right.
17.
So we'll move up somewhere around there. We'll probably just take their spot.
Tennessee probably about 18, 17.
Right.
A lot of movement's going to happen.
BYU's playing Oregon.
That might be a good game, an interesting game.
That's going to be an interesting game. Cal is playing Notre Dame. Penn State's playing Auburn.
Yeah.
Troy and App State. Shit. Let's see. I kind of.
That's where game day is going to be at. Troy and App State.
Oh,
really?
Mm-hmm.
And then Georgia Southern's playing UAB. These are some nice Sun Belt games. I'm probably going to watch these.
My old DC coaches at UAB now.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Dude, great mind. I mean, he used to have us in film for like 4.5 hours. Like, no bullshit. We get to practice late every day.
Huh.
But I learned more defensively, schematically from him than I did from all my other coaches combined. He was a fucking genius. Coach Herschel Walker, he was the head strength conditioning coach when Herschel Walker was at UGA. He was a G, man. He played at UGA in the 70s. Whenever he would get pissed at us for not, like, going hard at practice or whatever, he'd show us his black and white film from the 70s. He'd be like, we were hitting harder than y'all in the 70s, goddammit.
And the holes in his brain that he has now, probably. Yeah. I'll show you these. Like,
dude, he's like a binoculars to see, man. Those glasses he wore were fucking crazy.
Yeah, man. Mississippi State, LSU, Texas Tech, NC State. Didn't Texas Tech just beat Houston?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game. NC State should be on upset alert. Michigan State's playing Washington.
Washington's not very good.
Yeah,
no, they're not.
Could be wrong. Anything can happen.
South Florida and Florida. Florida might be on upset alert. And then, of course, Miami and A&M. I don't really know.
A&M really blew it. That could have been a really, interesting game. That's where game day would have went, but Texas A&M just had to go and lose. So they really ruined a good night there. I wonder where Texas A&M drops. If you want to talk about rankings, I wonder where Texas A&M falls to. 20-something?
Yeah, 21, 22.
Yeah, they got to drop substantially. Where's Oregon ranked? Is Oregon ranked?
Oregon's like 26. They're like the first team out of the top 25.
How did they go from being ranked 11 to unranked after 1 week of losing to the fucking best team in college football?
I know they got blown out, but I didn't think that deserved them to get kicked all the way out of the top 25.
They were overranked anyways, though. They shouldn't have been 11.
Yeah, they should have been in the 16 to 23 range.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, but you're going to have Houston at 20. They'll actually probably will get back in after this week. They'll probably get back in after all these teams lost. Pitt's going to get out. Houston's going to get out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Notre Dame they're on the cusp of it.
Yeah, Notre Dame actually might get out. Honestly,
it'll be close.
It'll be close.
If they took Oregon out from 11 after losing to Georgia, imagine what they're going to do to Notre Dame for losing to Marshall.
Yeah.
But, anyways.
Yeah.
Are we about ready to wrap up the pod here?
Yeah. I think we got everything covered that we needed to.
Okay. Well, if you're still here, we really appreciate it. Like, sub, share, all that good stuff. You heard Knox, new channel coming out soon. Be looking for that out. We'll be collabing together. My brain's turning into mush.
I don't think I mentioned that while we were recording. Yeah, I'm gonna make my own channel here soon. I'll have them link me in the description if they would be so gracious to do so. Yeah. And we'll cover same kind of topics they cover here.
And we'll be collabing and stuff, working together. All that good stuff. Like, comment, share. We appreciate all of you, and we'll see you in the next one.